This class is concerned with the types of plans. Let's start by looking at the difference between formal and informal plans. And we'll start with informal. These are not written down. They usually have a short-term focus and they are specific to an organization unit. So informal plans, generally speaking, are not written down. They are informal. There are loose agreements. Perhaps two managers within the business have a meeting and they informally agree to do certain things. They're usually for a short-term fix for the business. Something's gone wrong, it needs to be fixed, or perhaps they want to test out some new procedure. It's short-term and it's not written down. It's not formal. So that's the first type of planning, if you like. Second, we've got formal. This, as you would expect, by way of contrast, is written down. This is very specific and it's long-term. It involves shared goals for the organization. So formal is written down. It's codified, in other words. It's written down. It's very specific. It's to do a particular job. It's to do a particular task. And it's long-term. It's going to apply for a long period. That's why it's written down and dealt with in such detail. Now let's look at some of the planning methods or ways of doing it and the types of plan. And we'll start with just looking at the types of plan. We have, within the types of plan, we've got different attributes of plans. We have the breadth of the plan. How wide is the plan? What's the time frame? When does it run? How long does it take? And how specific is the plan? Does it apply to the whole organization, or is it just looking at a particular process? Is the plan related to a particular functional area, or is it looking at a particular process even within the particular operational area? So how specific is it? Is it general or is it specific? And how often is the plan used? So we may classify plans under these four headings. For example, if we look at strategic plans, for example, the government wants to expand into overseas markets, or perhaps it wants to develop new products, or it wants to grow the business. These are, the breadth is quite large. It's a strategic plan. And the attributes of the strategic plan would be that it's long-term, it's directional, it's aimed at something, it's aimed at growing the business or developing into a overseas market, and it has a single objective: to develop into the new market or to develop a new product. It's single use. The plan is aimed to do something specific. By way of contrast, we have operational plans, put more effort into producing and selling the produce, change the production layout, or develop a quality control system. These are examples of operational, if you like, nitty-gritty type plans within the business, plans to change the production layout, plans to redesign the business in some way internally. By and large, these are short-term. They're written down, but they're short-term and they're highly specific. They're aimed at changing the production line, or aimed at introducing a quality control system, or introducing some new way of doing something. They're specific. And once it's been done, and if it's successful, it tends to become a standing part of the organization. It's a standard procedure of the business. So planning can operate on strategic levels, which are the wider, bigger levels, plan for growth or developing a new product, or operational, something inside the business, changing some way the business conducts itself internally. Now, strategic and operational plans. Well, let's talk about strategic plans. These are plans that apply to the entire organization. They establish the organization's overall goals and seek to position the organization in terms of its environment. So they're aimed at the entire organization. They're strategic. They're aimed at growing the business by X% the following year, or expanding into a particular market. The whole business is expanding into that market, not just one particular function of the business. The whole business is going into it, so it's strategic. Operational plans, by contrast, these specify the details of how the overall goals are to be achieved. For example, how is production organized? How is the stores managed? How is delivery affected? Should it have its own transport, or should it outsource the logistics or the delivery of the product? How should it organize itself? These are operational plans. The strategic plan is what market to be in, what product to make. These are the big strategic plans that involve the whole organization. The operational plans, much more nitty-gritty, down to small components, small activities, if you like, within the business. The delivery of the product, organization of the stores, the type of machinery that's going to be used, the type of layout for the office. These are operational plans. We also classify plans as long and short term, and we'll start with long-term plans. As the name suggests, long-term. Generally speaking, about 3 years. But it varies from business to business. But 3 years would be, generally speaking, considered to be long-term. Short-term plans covering less than a year, perhaps. We'd have intermediate plans as well, perhaps something between the short and the long. But these are quite arbitrary definitions, but within the context of the business, they may be seen as long-term or short-term, depending on the nature of the business and what the custom and practice of the business is. What's the language of the business? Does the business consider to be long-term? What does the business consider to be short-term? We also have specific and directional plans, and we'll start with the specific. These are plans that clearly define and leave no room for interpretation. These are very specific. They have a particular task and it's not open to interpretation. It must be completed exactly as specified. These are specific plans. Directional plans, by contrast, these are plans that are flexible and set out general guidelines. They're directional. They are indicating where the business is going and the general direction in which the business is moving. So these are flexible. And if you go back to the diagram earlier, you'll see how these are parts of the classification for plans. Next we have single-use and standing plans. The single-use ones, well, these are a one-time plan specifically designed to meet the needs of a unique situation. They're single-use. A particular situation arises, a plan is needed to cope with that or to deal with it. It's a one-off. It's a one-time plan, and the situation may be seen as unique. It may never occur again, so a single one-off plan is required to deal with it. Standing plans, these are ongoing plans that provide guidance for activities that happen repeatedly. So standing plans are ongoing plans. They provide guidance as to how to deal with activities as they arise in the future. They're the standing plan, how the situation is dealt with in the event of some issue arising. the managers can consult the plan and see what the solution is. These are standing plans that indicate to the managers how the business is conducted. So what we've done here is we've looked at the types of plan in terms of strategic and operational, and these are very important distinctions. Strategic, aimed at the whole business, aimed at big decisions like should the business grow or should the business start selling or manufacturing in a different country. These are strategic decisions. Operational decisions relate to internal processes. How is the internal of the business, the internal production process of the business, how are those organized? And within that we have different types of plans: single use, standing plans, long-term, short-term, and so on. So this short class is now at an end, and I think we can leave it at that. So thank you for watching.